My mom called the cops and said I was violent because I refused to give her my paycheck. Then, the body cam exposed who the real problem was. The officer stood in front of me with the careful, measured expression of a man who had seen too much family chaos to be shocked by most things, but somehow still looked surprised by this. She said you threatened her, he told me. I told her I might move out, I said. He wrote that down. I watched his pen move across the page, while the police cruiser's lights kept flashing in the driveway, throwing slow red and blue shadows across the neighbors' houses. Inside, my mother was on the couch with a tissue pressed under one eye. My brother Joel was sunk into the armchair like he wished the cushions would swallow him whole. My dad was standing somewhere near the stairs, doing what my dad has always done best, remaining close enough to a crisis to technically be present, while doing absolutely nothing to participate in it. And there I was, standing in my driveway at 6:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, still wearing my work clothes, laptop bag over my shoulder, holding a box of granola bars I had bought on the way home, trying to explain to Officer Daniel Patterson, a man with 23 years on the force and gray at his temples, that I was not dangerous. I was just a man who would not hand over his paycheck, and my mother had decided those two things were the same. Let me back up, because without context this sounds insane. And honestly, even with context, I understand if it still sounds insane. My name is Marcus. I'm 27 years old. I work as an operations supervisor at a mid-sized logistics company, which means I manage shipping schedules, warehouse inventory, staffing problems, late trucks, missing pallets, damaged freight, and a rotating cast of disasters that would make most people develop a permanent eye twitch. I have been with the company for 5 years. I started on the warehouse floor at $16 an hour and worked my way into a salaried position through sheer stubbornness and my willingness to be the person who stayed late when no one else would. I am not rich, but I am stable. I am responsible. I know what money is worth because I have had to earn every bit of it. 2 years before the police cruiser showed up in my parents' driveway, I moved back home with a plan. Not because I had failed. Not because I could not survive on my own. I moved back because I am good at math, and the housing market in my city is brutal. Not wow, prices are kind of high. Brutal. Actual brutal. Single-family homes started around $380,000. Condos had bidding wars. One-bedroom apartments were going for $1,400 a month, and parking was extra. So I ran the numbers. If I lived at home for 24 months, rent-free, which was the agreement I made with my parents, and if I saved aggressively, I could reach a $40,000 down payment. Then I could buy something that would build equity instead of watching my money evaporate into someone else's mortgage every month. It was a long game, boring, disciplined, completely rational, and my parents were not struggling. My dad, Richard, had retired early after a 30-year accounting career with a pension and a 401k that would make most people comfortable for the rest of their lives. My mom, Diane, had never worked full-time. She managed the household, raised us, and by any external measure was completely financially secure. Their house had been paid off since I was in high school. No mortgage, no major debt, no emergency, no struggle. The arrangement when I moved back was simple. I got my old bedroom rent-free, covered my own expenses, and stayed out of everyone's way. For about 14 months, that worked. Then Joel became the golden child, and everything went sideways. My younger brother Joel is 24, which means he had technically been an adult for 6 years and had fully committed to using none of that time to develop a financial plan. He worked part-time at a video game retailer, usually 20 to 25 hours a week, mostly, I suspected, so he could get early access to new releases and an employee discount on equipment he did not need. His room looked like a Best Buy had exploded inside a dorm. About 8 months before the cops showed up, my mom sat Joel down and had what she called the contribution conversation. He was 24 and not paying for anything, so fair enough. But Joel's solution was strange. He started handing over his entire paycheck every 2 weeks. The whole thing. Usually $400 to $600, depending on his hours. My mom would deposit it, then give him back $50 to $100 as walking around money. My mom loved this arrangement. Loved it. She told my Aunt Carol about it. She mentioned it at dinner. She brought it up with relatives on speakerphone while I sat 6 feet away eating cereal. Suddenly, Joel was generous. Joel was selfless. Joel was a team player. Joel was a family man. She stopped short of ordering him a trophy, but only barely. Meanwhile, I was paying my own car insurance, $187 a month for full coverage. I paid my own phone bill, $65 a month. I bought my own groceries, usually around $280 to $320 a month. I paid for my own gym membership, $45 a month. And every month, I put between $2,200 and $2,500 into a high-yield savings account that, at the time of the police incident, held $38,400. I was not getting a free ride. I was executing a plan. But because I was not physically handing my money to my mother like tribute delivered to a medieval lord, apparently I was the selfish one. The comments started small, the way these things always do. A raised eyebrow at dinner when she mentioned what Joel contributed. A pointed look when she told my aunt, "At least one of my boys understands family." A clipping about millennial financial responsibility left on the kitchen table. Actual newsprint, like she had saved it from a magazine, placed at exactly the angle where I would have to move it to reach the coffee maker. I ignored it. That was my mistake. 3 months into this new campaign, she came at me directly. We were in the kitchen on a Sunday morning. She was making eggs, and the calm, domestic setting made the conversation feel more surreal, not less. "I think it would be really nice if you contributed like Joel does," she said, not looking at me, spatula in hand. I thought she was joking. I actually laughed. Not meanly. Just a short, reflexive laugh, the kind you make when someone says something so absurd your brain treats it like a joke before it can process it as reality. She turned and looked at me, and I realized immediately that she was not joking. "I'm serious," she said. "You're living here." Joel contributes. "It's only fair." I set my coffee mug down with the careful precision of someone trying very hard not to say the wrong thing. "Mom," I said, "I pay for my own food, my own bills, my own everything. The only thing I'm getting from this house is a bedroom," which was the deal. "That's not contributing to the family," she said. "That's just taking care of yourself." I thought taking care of yourself was the goal. Joel takes care of the family. I paused. I wanted to point out that Joel was handing her $500 and receiving $75 back, which was not taking care of the family. That was a financial arrangement that benefited exactly one person in the household, and it was not Joel. But I was trying to stay calm. "My situation is different from Joel's," I said. "I'm saving for a down payment. I have a target and a timeline, and I'm not going to blow it up." "So your future matters more than this family?" "My future is how I stop being a burden to this family in 2 years." She looked at me the way she used to look at me when I was 12, and had said something she decided was disrespectful. That particular combination of disappointment and ice. "Maybe you should find somewhere else to live if you feel so burdened here," she said. I did not respond. I picked up my coffee, went to my room, and spent the rest of the morning staring at a spreadsheet that had nothing to do with her. What followed was a campaign. That is the only word for it. It was organized, coordinated, escalating. She started running the dishwasher right after I had put dishes in the sink, then leaving a note about the dirty dishes. She turned the thermostat down to 62 degrees, to save on the bill, but only in the mornings when I was home before work. She made family dinners at 5:30 p.m., knowing I went to the gym at 5:15, then mentioned to whoever was listening that I could not be bothered to show up for the family. One Saturday, I came home and found all my food boxed up in the garage. Everything from my shelf in the pantry, everything I had labeled in the fridge. "Spring cleaning," she said. It was November. "I didn't realize those were yours," she added. My name was written on half of it. She started leaving my bills opened on the counter. She left a printed spreadsheet on the kitchen table one Sunday morning, color-coded, titled Fair Household Contribution. According to her calculations, I owed $1,100 a month to live in a paid-off house, in a room I had slept in since I was 9 years old. I stared at that spreadsheet for a long time. "The going rate for a room in this neighborhood is about $600, I said. "At most." I looked it up. "This isn't about the market rate," she said. "It's about being part of a family. You're trying to charge me almost double market rate and call it family. I'm trying to make you understand what it means to care about something other than yourself." I should not have said what I said next. I know that. But I was tired. Tired of the comments. Tired of the emotional accounting. Tired of being treated like responsibility only counted if it flowed through her hands first. "What this is," I said, measured and looking right at her, "is financial exploitation. And the fact that you're my mother doesn't change what it is." She did not speak to me for 9 days. The Tuesday it all came apart started like every other Tuesday. My alarm went off at 5 in the morning. I went to the gym. I showered. I went to work. At 7:43 a.m., I got my bi-weekly paycheck notification, $2,347 after taxes. I moved it into my savings account while I ate breakfast. My mom was watching me from across the kitchen, with the kind of silence that has texture. "You know," she said, in the voice she uses when she has decided she is being patient with someone unreasonable, "it would really mean something if you tried to help out more." I help plenty. Joel gives everything he has. Good for Joel. "You're being selfish, Marcus." I put my phone down and looked at her. "I'm being selfish by paying my own bills and saving for my future," I said, repeating it back just to make sure I understood the accusation. You're being selfish by not caring about this family. I care about this family. I'm just not going to hand you my paycheck to prove it. She crossed her arms. Then maybe you should find somewhere else to live. There it was, finally said out loud. Maybe I will, I said. Then I picked up my bag and went to work. I came home at 6:09 p.m. to a police cruiser in the driveway. I sat in my car for a full minute just processing the visual. My brain ran through every scenario except the real one. Break-in. Medical emergency. Joel had finally done something catastrophically stupid. A neighbor issue. A gas leak. I landed on literally anything before I landed on the truth. Then I walked inside. 2 officers were in the living room. My mom was on the couch with a tissue, giving a performance that, if I am being honest, deserved a regional theater award. My dad stood near the stairs, present in the way a piece of furniture is present. Joel was in the armchair, visibly uncomfortable. Officer Daniel Patterson stepped forward. Are you the son living here? Yes, I said. What's going on? We received a call about a domestic disturbance. Your mother states you've been making threats and acting aggressively. My brain did the thing where it tries to reboot while still running. I'm sorry. What? My mom stood up, dabbing at her eyes. I'm scared of him, officer. He's been getting more and more aggressive. And this morning, Dad, I said, turning to him. You were home this morning. Did I threaten anyone? My dad shifted his weight. I was in the other room. Of course he was. The second officer, Vanessa Kim, 8 years on the force, according to her badge, stepped toward me with the focused expression of someone who did not find the situation nearly as clear-cut as my mother hoped. Sir, can you tell us what happened today? I kept my voice even. Level. Years of managing warehouse disputes had taught me that a calm voice in a loud room wins every time. We argued about money, I said. She asked me to give her my paycheck. I said no. She told me to find somewhere else to live. I said maybe I would. Then I went to work. That is the entirety of what happened. He was threatening, my mom insisted. He said maybe he'd move out, Joel said. Silence. We all looked at him. My mother's face did something complicated. Several emotions fighting for the surface, none of them flattering. Joel, stay out of this, she said, sharp and low. I was right there, Joel said. He looked uncomfortable, but he did not back down. He didn't threaten anybody. He said he might move out. Officer Patterson looked at my mom, then at me, then at Joel. I could almost see the quiet mathematics happening behind his eyes. The calculation of a man whose job is to determine what actually happened after people try to turn emotion into evidence. Ma'am, he said carefully, making false reports is a serious matter. I'm not making a false report, she said. I feel threatened in my own home. Feeling uncomfortable and being threatened are legally distinct, Officer Kim said. Has there been any physical contact? Any property damage? Any specific threat to your safety? My mother could not answer, because the answer was no. The officers asked me to step outside. I went with them. The body cam on Patterson's chest had been recording since they entered the house. He told me that. Then he told me something else. Look, he said, quieter now. Professional distance dropping just slightly. I've been doing this 23 years. That wasn't a domestic violence situation. That was a family argument about money. I know, I said. The report will reflect that her claims couldn't be substantiated, Officer Kim added. And the body cam footage? I asked. Clear audio, clear video, time-stamped, she said. Your brother contradicted her account. That's in the report too. She paused. If anyone tries to use this against you, the footage tells the whole story. I thanked them. They left. I stood in the driveway alone for a long time, watching the cruiser pull away, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not relief. Not exactly. More like cold clarity. My mother had called the cops on me and lied about me being violent because I would not give her my money. She had done it knowing I would have to live with that report, that accusation, that risk. She had chosen a story that could have followed me everywhere. I packed a bag that night. I called my friend Dave Reyes. We had been friends since junior year of college, and Dave has the specific gift of being the kind of person who says, come over, without making you explain why you need to. I explained anyway, sitting in the parking lot of a gas station at 8:30 p.m., with a bag of chips I had stress bought from inside. Your mom called the cops on you, he said when I finished. Yes. And told them you were violent. Yes. Because you wouldn't give her your paycheck. That's the whole thing. There was a pause on the line. I'll leave the key under the mat, he said. I spent the next 3 days at Dave's apartment, a 2-bedroom in a quieter part of the city that smelled like coffee and dry erase markers because Dave works from home in tech consulting. He made me eat actual meals. He let me watch terrible television without commenting on my taste. He was, in the very specific way that good friends are, exactly what I needed. My mom called 6 times the first day. Voicemails. I listened to them that night once, in order. The first was soft and apologetic. Sweetheart, I just want to talk. I didn't mean for it to get so big. By the third, the softness had curdled. You're making this worse by ignoring me. By the sixth, there was no softness left. I don't know who you think you are. I deleted them all and went to sleep. On Wednesday morning, I called the police department's non-emergency records line. The woman who answered was brisk, efficient, and clearly already over her morning. She confirmed the incident was closed. No charges. No arrest. She gave me the incident number and told me I could request the full report and the body cam footage through a public records request. I filed both requests before 9 in the morning. Then I went to work, because I was not going to let my mother derail my employment record, along with everything else. My boss, Mark Ellison, operations director, 11 years with the company. The kind of straightforward man who gives performance reviews in complete sentences, waved me into his office 10 minutes after I arrived. One of the guys saw you got dropped off, he said. You okay? I decided, in that moment, to tell the truth. Not the full emotional story, just the facts. My mother called the police on me, I said. Made a false report. There's an incident on file. I want you to know before it shows up anywhere. Mark looked at me for a long second. Jesus. It won't affect work, I started. He held up a hand. I'm not worried about work. You're one of my best supervisors. I'm worried about you. Then he leaned forward. Get the documentation. All of it. Body cam, report, everything. If anything filters through here, calls, rumors, anything, you come straight to me. I thanked him. Then I went and managed shipping schedules for 8 hours. I was so focused I cleared a backlog that had been sitting since October. Stress, it turns out, is extremely motivating when you are trying not to think. 2 days later, Mark called me back into his office. HR got a call, he said. My stomach dropped. From who? Your mother. For a second, I could not speak. The warehouse noise outside his office, the forklifts, conveyor belts, and constant low hum of a building that never fully stops, all went muffled, like someone had pressed cotton against my ears. She asked to speak to your manager, Mark continued, jaw tight. Said she was concerned about your stability. Said you'd been acting erratic. I looked down at my hands. They were very still, deliberately still. What did you tell her? I told her our workplace is not a family group chat, and that any further contact would be documented. He paused. Then I told HR she was out of line. They agreed. You're on record with us. You proactively disclosed. No behavior issues. Nothing substantiated. You're fine here. He looked at me with something that was not quite pity. More like the steady acknowledgement of someone who had watched a person handle something difficult with more dignity than it deserved. I'm sorry, he said, for what she's putting you through. Hearing him apologize for my mother nearly cracked something open in me that I could not afford to crack open at work. I thanked him. I walked to the bathroom. I stood at the sink and ran cold water over my wrists for about 30 seconds. Then I dried my hands, went back to the floor, and ran a cycle count on the Eastern warehouse that no one had asked me to do. That night, I sent my mom one text. Do not contact my employer again. She responded in under 30 seconds. I was worried about you. You're spiraling. I typed back. I'm not spiraling. You are crossing lines. If you contact my workplace again, I will consult an attorney. She replied, so now you're threatening me? I stared at my phone in the parking lot outside Dave's apartment and laughed. Actually laughed. Alone in the dark. Because the irony was so complete, it had become its own punchline. That's a boundary, I wrote. Not a threat. There's a difference. She did not reply. The following week, I called Linda Reyes, an attorney specializing in civil harassment cases. She had the voice of a woman who had personally exhausted every form of human nonsense and found none of it impressive. I walked her through the whole thing. The months of pressure, the spreadsheet, the police call, my mom contacting my employer, the body cam footage I was still waiting on. She filed a false report, Linda said. That's potentially actionable. Whether they charge her depends on the department and how airtight your documentation is. Body cam and my brother's account, I said. Plus, the officer's report says the claims couldn't be substantiated. Good. Get the footage. Get copies. Document every time she contacts your workplace or shows up anywhere she wasn't invited. She paused. I can draft a cease and desist letter. Sometimes that alone is enough to make someone realize they're not untouchable. How much? She told me. It was not cheap. It also was not a question. Draft it, I said. The body cam footage arrived on a Thursday morning as a password-protected link in my email. I sat on Dave's couch with my laptop balanced on my knees and clicked play. Watching yourself be accused of something you did not do, on video, is a specific kind of experience. There is a lag between what you see and what you feel. like reading the same sentence twice before it finally makes sense. I watched myself walk into that living room. I watched my own shoulders stay loose. I watched my own face stay calm. Then I watched my mother say, "I'm scared of him, officer." And I felt it. Not as a memory, as a fact. She had looked those officers in the eye and said that. She had pressed a tissue to her face and trembled. She had performed terror for people with guns and badges and records, and the power to create documents that could follow me everywhere, all because I would not give her my paycheck. I watched Joel contradict her. I watched Patterson's expression shift as he recalibrated. I watched the whole performance collapse under the weight of one witness who told the truth. Then the officers walked me outside, and I heard Patterson say it again, clear on the recording. That wasn't domestic violence. That was a family argument about money. I downloaded the file. I saved it in 3 locations. I emailed it to Linda Reyes with a note that said, "Sending for your records." I forwarded it to my personal cloud backup. I made a folder on my laptop called, simply, Evidence. Then I sent the full incident report and footage to my HR department with a 1-line note. Attached for your files, as discussed. HR replied within 2 hours. Received. Thank you for the proactive communication. File closed. On our end. The cease and desist letter went out 10 days later. Linda sent it by certified mail. It outlined the false police report, the contact with my employer, any future uninvited contact with my residence or workplace, and the potential legal consequences of continuing. My mom called me 40 minutes after delivery confirmation. "You're sending me legal threats?" she said. "Your own mother?" "It's a legal document," I said. "Not a threat. There's a difference." She was quiet for a long moment. Then softly she said, "I don't understand how we got here." Something about the way she said it, the deflation in it, the absence of performance, made me pause. "You called the cops on me," I said. "You lied to them. You called my boss. You made up a story about me being violent because I wouldn't hand over my money. That's how we got here." Silence. Then she said, "I just wanted you to need me." And then, like she had not meant to say it out loud, "Both of you. I wanted you both to need me." I did not respond for a long moment. "That's not what family is for, Mom." She started crying, real crying this time. Not the performance, the thing underneath it. I did not hang up, but I did not give her anything either. I just let her cry. And when she had quieted enough to hear me, I said, "I love you, but I'm done living in a way that makes you feel needed at my expense. I need you to get help." She did not answer. She hung up. I found an apartment the following week. It was a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an older building, with big windows facing a row of oak trees and a kitchen with actual counter space. The landlord, a woman named Donna, looked at my pay stubs and my credit score and said, "You'll be fine. No pets?" "No," I said. "Then welcome." I signed the lease with the specific feeling of a man locking a door from the inside, not the outside. Moving day was quiet. Dave helped. Joel showed up, which surprised me. We worked in near silence, boxing up 5 years of accumulated adult life. Books, clothes. A computer setup I had built piece by piece. Kitchen supplies I had bought myself because no one had ever thought to buy them for me. About halfway through, Joel set down a box. "I'm sorry," he said. I looked at him. "For being the good son," he added. I waited. "I knew what she was doing," he said. "With the money. With you. I just liked being the one she wasn't mad at." That was the most honest thing Joel had ever said to me. "I know," I said. "I opened my own account," he said. "This week." I nodded. "Good." He picked the box back up, and we finished in silence. But it was a different kind of silence. The kind that comes after something has been said that needed saying. In the weeks that followed, something interesting happened in the extended family. My Aunt Sheila, my mom's sister, the most level-headed person in our family by a wide margin, called me. Sheila is the one you call when you need someone who will tell you a hard truth without making it about herself. She had heard my mom's version of events. She had also apparently heard enough inconsistencies to go looking for the other version. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "She called the police," she said finally. "Yes. And there's footage." "Yes. Can I see it?" I told her it was available through a public records request. I walked her through the process. 2 days later, she called me back. "I watched the footage," she said. "I called your mother. I do not know everything that was said in that conversation, but I know it was not gentle." Sheila told me my mom had been calling relatives, cousins, uncles, and my dad's brother Frank with versions of the story that grew more dramatic every time she retold it. In one version, I had been screaming. In another, I had broken something. In the version she told Frank, the police had to physically remove me from the house. Uncle Frank heard that version from my mom. Then he called my dad, who apparently, for once in his passive life, told the truth. Frank requested the body cam footage. He watched it. Then he sent it to 3 other relatives. By the time I found out, 6 members of my extended family had watched video evidence of my mother telling police she was scared of a son who had done nothing more threatening than say he might move out. My mom sent a group text to the entire family. 22 people, I counted. She claimed the footage was out of context and said she felt attacked and unsafe. My Aunt Sheila replied to the group text within 5 minutes. The footage is quite clear. Perhaps we focus on moving forward. My mom did not respond to the group text. 6 weeks after the incident, my mom called and asked me to come to Aunt Sheila's for a family gathering. Not a holiday, a gathering. In my family, that means someone has decided a conversation needs witnesses. I went because I was not running, and because Sheila had earned my trust. The living room smelled like cinnamon candles and suppressed tension. My mom sat on the couch, posture rigid, eyes already glistening. Dad sat beside her wearing the expression of a man who had spent decades watching storms approach and hoping they would change direction. Aunt Sheila let the small talk play out for exactly 10 minutes. Then she cleared her throat. Okay, she said. Let's talk about what happened. My mom lifted her chin. I felt unsafe in my home. The report says the claims couldn't be substantiated, my aunt said without flinching. The footage shows the officers concluding it was a civil matter. The footage doesn't show everything. I watched the footage, Uncle Frank said. The room went quiet. I requested it, he continued, because you told me the police had to physically remove Marcus from the house. That is not what the footage shows. My mom's face went through 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. I was scared, she tried. Of what? My aunt asked, gentle but immovable. Specifically, what were you afraid he would do? My mom opened her mouth, then closed it. And then my father said something I had never, in 27 years, heard him say in a moment that mattered. You shouldn't have called, he said. My mother turned to him like he had just appeared from nowhere. Richard, you went too far, he said. His voice was unsteady, but he kept going. He didn't threaten you, Joel said so. The police said so. The video shows it. You went too far. My mom's face crumpled. Not the performance. The actual thing underneath. Older, sadder, more complicated than the show she had been running for months. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. That's why you need help, my aunt said quietly. Real help. Silence. My mom pressed her lips together. Will you go to therapy? My aunt asked. My mother looked at my dad. He looked back at her, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, he did not look away. Yes, she said. Then, maybe? Then, finally, yes. It was not a movie moment. There was no music. No one hugged. We ate the food my aunt had made, talked about other things, and went home. But something had shifted in that room. Some weight had been distributed more honestly. Joel moved into his own studio apartment 2 months later. He got a full-time job at a renewable energy company. Salary, benefits, the whole thing. I helped him shop for actual adult furniture on a Sunday afternoon. He picked up a set of dish towels, held them up, and said, completely seriously, do adults actually use these? Everyone uses dish towels, Joel. I've been using paper towels my entire life. That explains so much. He bought the dish towels. At lunch afterward, he said, she asked me to move back in. What did you say? I said I'm 24, and I need to start my own life. He grinned. She didn't take it well. Did you sign the lease anyway? Already signed. Good. On moving day, I showed up with Dave in a borrowed truck. My mom had told Joel she would not help unless he made things right with the family first. So he rented his own truck, and we moved him ourselves. 4 of us carried boxes up 2 flights of stairs, and by the end of it, Joel's studio looked like an actual human being was going to live there. When we were done, Joel stood in the middle of his small kitchen and looked around at his things. His dishes, his lamp, his cheap couch, his own keys on his own counter. This is mine, he said. Yeah, I said. It is. It has been 8 months since the cruiser was in the driveway. My mom goes to therapy now. She told me that herself, on a phone call that was the first conversation we had in months where she did not try to relitigate anything. She did not explain. She did not accuse. She just said, I'm going to therapy. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. I did not tell her I was proud of her. It is too early for that, but I did not dismiss it either. I got promoted, regional planning supervisor, the role I had been quietly working toward for 2 years. Mark shook my hand and said, you handled a lot this year and didn't let it derail you. That matters. The pay bump put my savings plan almost back on track. Delayed, but not dead. Joel and I get coffee most Sundays now. He is terrible at budgeting, and I help him. He started going to the gym. He complains about it every single time and keeps going anyway, which might be the most grown-up thing I have ever seen him do. My mom texted me last week. No hook, no guilt, no demand. Just, hope you're having a good day. I stared at that text for a long time. 2 lines, 11 words, then I wrote back. You too. The folder labeled evidence is still on my laptop. The body cam footage, the incident report, the cease and desist letter, the HR emails. I have not deleted any of it. I do not watch the footage anymore. But I keep it the way you keep a smoke alarm. Not because you expect a fire every day, but because you know now that fires happen, and next time, you will be ready. My mom thought not handing over my paycheck made me the enemy. She thought love meant surrendering control of your own life. She thought she could call the police, file a false report, contact my employer, show up at my door uninvited, and the word family would cover it all like a tarp over a crime scene. What she did not account for was body cameras, public records, a brother who told the truth, an aunt who watched the footage, an uncle who shared it, a boss who documented everything, an attorney who wrote things clearly, and a son who had been quietly keeping records for months because he worked in logistics, and logistics runs on documentation. You cannot out-organize someone whose entire career is built on knowing where things are, where they went, who signed for them, and what they cost. The real price of what she did was not my paycheck. The real price was control. And the strange part is, in losing control, she got both of her sons back. Not because we needed her, not because we owed her, not because she could guilt us into staying. She got us back because we chose to come back on our own terms. With our own money, our own leases, our own keys, our own lives. That is the difference between control and love. Only one of them works.